I'm going to introduce Dorothy, and then Dorothy's going to introduce Colette. And I've heard both of them read together on a number of occasions, and it's quite a wonderful duo. Okay. Dorothy August is an award-winning poet with 3 books of poems, including Family Album and The Liberty Years. She has won 2 New York Foundation of the Arts Fellowships, and I think she has completed these 2 books, L-Shaped Room and Poets Wear Prada and Drinking Alaska. She was a program director for the Living Theater, editor of White Rabbit, and teaches writing and workshops all throughout the city. Her poems and articles have been published in numerous periodicals, including The Partisan Review, Hanging Loose, The Village Voice, New Observations, The California Quarterly, The Unbearables, Worst Book Anthology, Speaking the Word Anthology, Icon Anthology, Tribes, And Then, and Mobius. Her nonfiction piece, The Bastard Heirs, appears in Clayton Patterson's collection, Jews of the Lower East Side. And she has performed in various venues, including the St. Mark's Poetry Project and the New York Poetry Cafe. So here's Dorothy.
Thank you very much for introducing me. I really appreciate it. It's a great pleasure to see everyone here, and it's a particularly powerful experience for me because I'm reading with a longtime favorite poet and person, Colette Inez, who's been one of the most supportive people in the poetry world that I've ever met, possibly the most supportive. I know I should save this book, but if I keep going, I'll just be talking about Colette. But she's kept up with numerous people that she's workshopped with, sending them little cards and encouraging, very, very encouraging person, as well as a very fine poet, which you'll hear in a few minutes. The first time I read with Colette actually was at the Living Theater, where I was program director at one point. This was when they were on East 3rd Street and Avenue C. So I wrote a poem, and this is actually an excerpt of the poem, it's not the whole poem, but it was published in one of these short poem collections called Brevitas, called Surreal Sisters at the Living Theater to Colette Inez. So I'd like to start with that. Surreal Sisters. 2 roads brought us here today. Parallels, twists, separations from mother. And so I draw you, bird poet, in your colorful plumage. I sit at my desk and sketch you like all those who want to fly with you for a moment. Avant, savant sister, your stanzas gleaming, raised in a quiet room by Belgian nuns. Golden sun under golden sun, dreaming new feathers and formats of possibility. And so I begin to compose you like a hymn to the quiet monastery you were raised in, to the priest and nun, your parents, and to the first initials you carved onto the sonnet. I'm going to read some short poems and some longer ones. This is a poem called Perhaps in Time. It is too late to write about the way the snow is melting. the mountains threatening to break us down into flakes, but if you watch a snake move or bless a calf, it becomes a horse. And fear turns into whatever keeps us holding on to the earth. So though I grieve for everyone I've lost, I suppose there is some humor to be found in you can escape terror by jumping headlong into relationships with one thing or another. People, animals, maybe a hieroglyph or two. All in all, there is the inference that they can become the thing we fear, and that perhaps in time we can find love even in ourselves. This is called Because There Is No God, Just Fear and Escapism. Because there is no God, just fear and escapism, you brush the crumbs off your chin and go to the dentist, where he roots out your decaying parts. Other patients at the hospital are watching you. You are met by a nurse in a blue smock, chasing a nurse in a blue smock, sweating flies. She had read too much in her youth, and now it is all she can do to keep herself from repeating certain sentences from the life of Beth and Henry James. He was walking with all his great heroes through a thick forest and thought he couldn't see the clearing, but he knew if he persevered he would find his way through Chaucer, Joyce, Tolstoy, Balzac, and Hemingway, all garbled and jumbled together, and all chasing a nurse in a blue smock of their own generation. This is a more objective approach. After seeing an art show by John Ashbury at Tibor Denar's gallery, these are some images from the show, actually, that I made a poem out of. It's called In Biarritz, France. Closet in which a dress stands up by itself, high-necked, full length, holds her in place, her hands on either side of her head. Shipwrecked, the man sits on the pebbled shore, while the woman, corseted in dress with high neck, holds her two hands to her temples. Woe is me, she says. Off in the distance are the choppy seas that say, don't be suspicious. Cool off with a bottle of Coca-Cola. Why not ogle the old-fashioned girl in white taffeta dress who stands in a giant jello box beside the waterfall? Behind the moss on the rocks stand like strands of an old man's hair, and from inside her head come cattle gargoyles and classical paintings. This year, then, we call child. A 10-year-old walking in the woods, and on either side, elegantly dressed in blue velvet, an elephant, holding flowers by the roots. These, then, are the woods in which a fish covers its head with flowers. The flowers pink at the roots where the fish bleeds. To eavesdrop on other people's lives is a way of life. Nothing can be further than the truth. I tell you this just to get you on my side, that I will hurt you like I did Clara. Bury you in the mush bowl with the sprouted wheat and berries. Clean as a whistle, I will create a pastiche of your life, and we will fall down laughing and not be able to stand up. Nothing fades, nothing is everlasting. I am the sonnet that soars. Even after I am gone, you will be painting my songs on the ukulele. Inventing other people's lives is my occupation. We empty our pockets into deeper pockets and become distraught that parts of us are missing. For example, I stole your coin collection and coined it. Check the kitchen and you'll see that some of the knives are missing. interrupts to tell us she's finished burping the baby and pats its nasty back. It spits up a modern haiku in the shape of a monkey. We gurgle at the brook, but it remains silent. This is called Seeking the Paper's Approval. Seeking the paper's approval, I ask it, if you invent a door, if you mend solitude, what is the proper measure of distance from? What is the skill of maintaining impersonal relationships? And the paper replies, the nectar of necessity suggests that you mend infinity. Get a new pair of shoes and walk around your life. Oh, head, let's bridge the gap between this box of us and our demons, or between the 12th century and the twilight zone we live in currently. And the demons answer, we are more or less here to serve you, androgynous figures from your past and indifferent to your pain. And now we will run with you across the naked tapestry and wed you to the tarantula. And so this is actually from another collection. And I organized a reading at Cornelia Street Cafe that I had given the name Rolls and Rolling Pins, which is actually originally a poem that I had written. So I took the title from my poem and made it the title of the reading. So we've had 3 readings so far. So I'll read one of them. Rolls and Rolling Pins 1. I sit beside you pouring out my life about several mothers. Anti-war mother, cooking mother, amusing mother. Suddenly, one mother accuses, why can't you be like the other girls? Smile for company. Her words slash my ego. Fragmented pieces of me begin running up and down the kitchen floor and into the dark basement, where new egos are hatching, retrenching, and joining other boys and girls, struggling. Fragmented, I remember our brain transplants and how I cut up Cooking Mother into hundreds of pieces, furious about her murder of me. This is a different kind of piece. It's about a conversation between an analyst and a patient called A and P, and it's the first part of it. So there are 2 characters, the analyst and the patient. I'll be reading both parts. Analyst, where are you? Patient, I am not sitting in this chair. I am up on the ceiling floating. Analyst, come down this minute, you might fall. Patient, oh, here's a window. I'll walk through it and see what's on the other side. Analyst, stop. Patient, sound of glass breaking. Patient crashing through to another time. Gee, I'm covered with blood. Analyst, are you in pain? Gets a towel and gauze pads. Patient, yes. Analyst, hands him a ladder. Here's a ladder, step down and I can treat your wounds. Patient, I'm not sure I want to come down there. The colors are brighter up here and I can see backwards and forwards in time. You look so small. You need to steady yourself while you slip away completely. Patient, you do look small, all those centuries of inhibition. Analyst, so where are you now? I'm back in the 16th century in the Tower of London and wearing breasts. Analyst, who are you? Patient, I'm Anne Boleyn, and I'm waiting to be beheaded for not producing a male heir. Analyst, well, for goodness sakes, come back before your head is severed from your body. Patient, my husband has promised me a merciful death. He's hired an excellent executioner who can sever my head with one blow. Analyst, men, what else can you expect? Patient, well, guess it's time to get out of here. I think I'll jump ahead about 400 years. Analyst, so where are you now? Patient, I'm at the factory watching Andy shoot a film. Analyst, things any better? Patient, only on the surface. That's the beginning of a series where the patient gets to travel to different places in time. It's an excellent opportunity to do all kinds of things. These poems were written for Women's History Month, actually. They were published in a couple of journals. This one's called Shatter My Body, But Let My Spirit Roam Free. Shatter my body, but let my spirit roam free. When all these lyrics have broken through the silences, I will be born into a more contemplative life, to be what I've always been and more, a thing unstuck from the womb of men and flying free, into a more elaborate relationship with myself. Oh, mother, taste me. I am the song you almost sang, the one you never got to sing. But for all our essential differences, I am not an object at all, though small. Shatter my body, but let my spirit roam free, into a more elaborate landscape, where the kind birds hold our warmth and feed it to us. So I like to write poems that seem somewhat disjunctive or non sequitorish, and I also like to write poems that are more linear and connected to the political landscape if possible, and I have some of these as well. This is a short poem that's dedicated to Amadou Diallo. It's part of a series of poems called Songs of Bloody Sunday. This one's number 1. When we heard the news that Diallo had been shot 41 times by mistake, we pictured the shooting and wondered how many times it took to get his body to lie down peacefully in its pool of blood. When did the last twitch occur? How many seconds passed? How many people fired on him as he reached for pictures of his wife and son? I imagined the umbrella in my hand as the wallet, and the umbrella in your hand as the gun. I came away with a few interesting poems when I was in Paris a couple of years ago that weren't exactly what I was looking for, but that's how it goes. They were more political things, I guess. This is called Blame It on the Gypsies. It was nothing that could be filled. A library of books missing, all those nuances from Norman Mailer to Rousseau. So it was not surprising when they arrested you, commenting on your sharp nose and dark hair. You too will find yourself in a foreign country someday, accused of every conceivable crime. It will be as if you were always there in Montmartre, stabbing the air with your knife-like tongue, excusing the climate for its unfriendly manner, while indulging in escargot. Actually, the escargot is really good, but it was actually much better here, to tell you the truth. This was also written when I was in France as well. It's called Mustaches by Dali. The Nazis were focused when they occupied France, marched down Paris streets putting up swastikas on the traffic signs of each corner. Gertrude Stein suggested that the committee give Adolf a Peace Prize for keeping order in the Third Reich. Salvador Dali saw Hitler's mustache. Then he drew one on the Three Musketeers while they sang All for One and One for All. He painted one on the Hunchback of Notre Dame and the guests at the movable feast. Salvador Dali drew a mustache on Pablo Picasso and F. Scott Fitzgerald, on Zelda while she was pouting. He drew a mustache on Ernest Hemingway, but Ernest shaved it off. John Dos Passos and Andre Breton, Federico Garcia Lorca. He drew a mustache on Alice B., Emily Z., and Leo T., and Dostoevsky, and also Sinclair Lewis, who's really Jewish, and Paul Cézanne, and Vincent van Gogh, and Matisse and Monet, and Monet too, also a Jew. He drew a mustache on Cardinal Richelieu and Marie A., and everyone at the Bastille. He drew one on Robespierre and Danton, and Jean-Paul Sartre and Camus, also a Jew. He drew a mustache on Simone de Beauvoir and on Gertrude Stein, who already had one. So a little poem I wrote based on John Ashbury's switching pronouns. It's called, the original title was actually Everything Depends on a Red Bra and John Ashbury, but another title is Transgender Poem for John Ashbury. Unconfined by labels and limitations, John Ashbury shifts his pronouns so that when his poem stops, it has been to 3 different places: bisexual, bipartisan, transgender, as in, when Dawn told us he was bisexual, I was surprised. I thought he was gay. Well, that pronoun shifting to he, she, it, and what were we, you, and they doing then? And what does that make me? Or C.A. Conrad? Or am I like John Ashbury, who is known for his shifts? And are you like her, who is writing this transgender poem to John Ashbury? To John Ashbury. Is everybody up to another political poem? Nobody?
Yeah.
Everybody. Okay, well, I have to say that when I was in Paris, I mean, there were some lovely things, but this is one of the things that I was thinking, actually. It's called The Tourist Guide to Paris. We ate the filling without the shell without the filling. We grabbed it, and then we said we didn't. That is what the French said when they caught us red-handed at Rue de Rouge Enfant, up the block from Rue de Bretagne. That is what they said. They said they could tell by the way we circled around with Poisson de la Fruit. It was 27 euros, so I bought pieces at a cheaper Poisson store in Montmartre. We grabbed it and covered our tracks. They said they could tell by the way we disappeared into the toilets, which, by the way, were dirty and had no toilet paper. They said they could tell by the way we pulled the legs off the frogs. Among the cobblestones, a man was shivering, but no one noticed. They were too busy obeying the street signs thrown from lampposts. Nobody noticed the street signs or the man, just like no one noticed the poor living under the metro, their clothes half off, scratching themselves, scratching each other's bruises. The alleys of Paris stink of piss, but the streets are brightly lit. with cafes and lively conversation. What did you imagine it would be like? Squalor and splendor, side by side, like East Hampton and East New York. Do you feel at home here between the classes? And they say there are crazy people shooting up in the little square off the metro in Montmartre. But haven't you learned to determine the time of day from how the sun sinks into the clouds, so when Paris first becomes light, already it has rained for 8 days, and then drizzle, a downpour the next. You go out and get wet. What did you imagine it would be like in the Republic of Gold and Piss? There are rats in Paris too, and they chew on your shoes and nibble at your hands looking for camembert. You feed them like you do your dog Flo at home in Mount Kisco, and the rats come out of the cellar and feed on you. So, when is there time to notice the poor eating out of tin cans on the subways? When a porcupine is not a porcupine, but a Hottentot, or a Jew pig trotter hanging in a shop on Rue des Hottentots, or when a man is sleeping on the floor of the metro, or scratching the fleas on his back. We ate at the Perfect Cafe beside the ghosts of Robespierre, Picasso, and Dali, and we waved to Gertrude Stein arguing with Ernest Hemingway. We ate the filling without the shell, grabbed it off the shell, but still didn't call the frogs by their proper names. Or little place for us in Parisian society. And now, where are you? Can you find yourself between the sightseers and the jaded Parisians? They said they could tell we were Americans the way we pulled the legs off the frog. What did you think you would find? Why did you come? The last poem is also very short. It's called If We Could Learn. If we could learn to love one another, if we could learn to love one another, if we could say, I am old and fat and there are bugs, leave me alone, then there are choices. To live outside the human connection or to connect my despair to others and invoke all the older poets and the younger ones too, to soar above the sentences into the land of lexicons and who knows where else, to split open the sea, grow wild, and find that part of us that is least recognizable, and challenge it to tell us all it knows of heaven. I'll end with heaven. Thank you. It's hard to imagine a life or a world without knowing Colette, but I guess I didn't know her when I was a child, but I probably know Colette about 40 years, and over that time, it's been an amazing experience knowing her, knowing her work, receiving her cards in the mail, encouraging cards, just when I had given up at least 50 times, but then started up again. Colette graduated from Hunter College a while back. She's Belgian born and has taught in New York City in places like Columbia University and the New School, as well as in the Poets in the School programs. She's authored, I think this is a modest figure actually, it says 10 books of poetry. She's authored at least 10 books of poetry and a memoir, many of which have been awarded honors. She's been published in more than 70 anthologies and textbooks, and she's read her work at over 120 colleges and universities. Colette Inez also won a Guggenheim and Rockefeller Fellowships, 2 NEAs and Pushcart Prizes, and many, many other awards. In addition to Columbia University, she's also taught at Cornell, Ohio, Bucknell, and Colgate universities. She's been a leader at writers' conferences and appeared on public radio and TV. I believe she will be reading, this was one of the books she'll be reading, comics called Luba Poems. And I'm reading just a little excerpt here. In Luba Poems, Colette Inez writes movingly of many themes and varied experiences of the fictive Luba, a woman of ever-changing bubbles of ideas and images, a real person, yet imagined and sometimes surreal. The atmosphere is scented with blue jazz in riffs and ragtime medleys. The quest for Luba's exuberant, endlessly curious, and adventurous personality is fired by a sense of deep time. And Peter Cooley, Senior Mellon Professor of English, said of Luba Poems, Stevensian opulence of imagination reigns in these delicious poems, which offer a smorgasbord of word delight. I know of no contemporary poet whose poems reveal such obvious pleasure in their own existence. So, you have a treat with Colette Inez, who will be reading to you in a minute or two. Please welcome Colette Inez. Thank you.
Historic Jefferson market. I'm not going to use the microphone. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that microphone might be a problem for me. If it's a problem for you, you'll tell me.
Yes.
Okay? You let me know. So right now I feel more comfortable without interference. Anyway, I want to thank the historic Jefferson Market Library, free library, for making this reading happen. And I want to thank my sister poet, Dorothy Friedman, for her generous introduction and for her poetry. We go way back. Dorothy was in my new school class in the late 1970s, and we became friends and have read together at the Living Theater and many other places. I also want to thank all of you for coming. You're part of the important audience, and I really appreciate that. I'm going to start my reading with poems that haven't, some of the poems have been published, but they haven't been published in a book. And the book that I'm working on is called Monsignor's Daughter, because my father was ordained a Monsignor the year I was born, a Catholic, a Roman Catholic. So I was the unexpected outcome of a romance, or you could call it a romance, an affair between my father and, I guess we call my mother, historian, an archivist. They were working on Aristotle papers together, and I came out of that. Likely. Anyway, so I never met my father. He died when I was very young. My mother wrote me that he came to see me once when I was living in an orphanage, or it wasn't called an orphanage, it was an institute for the rearing of children. L'Institut pour l'écriture, Institute for the rearing of children. This poem addresses my priest father, and it has actually I think this particular poem has him in a sweater, as I thought it kind of humbling to think about my father, not in his robe, but in his sweater. My priest father's V-necked, tobacco-colored cardigan topped with tiny holes burned by embers of his cigarettes. He wore it when he flung off his collar in the sacristy. I believe he preferred the beauty of women to the virtue of sermons. I believe he preferred their beauty to giving absolution. A gift from his mother, who favored him in uniform, lieutenant at arms in the militant church. He slipped the sweater on and off during those years before he met my handsome mother in her smoke-colored dress. When I mull on him naked, nothing but mystery colors my view. To think I've seen nothing of him but one photographed face. The body that made me stripped under earth, where he wears the western light of stars. My father was, although he spent much of his life in France, he was born in California. He was born in San Francisco. So in some of my poems, I weave the California. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I weave some California details in my poems for him. This is called California Father. Sermons in a book initialed in gold, a pocket watch. These reside as my imagined artifacts and slide along the margin of his frame. And the reins he gripped as he urged his horse to Our Lady of Wayside. Enter my father's hours of clocks without hands. In uplands of California, earth tilts, sun drifts. Once he came incognito, stripped of his collar, to see me before I babbled words. Now worn like a collar, a tightness in my throat speaks to the restraints he broke free to make me visible. He appears in me from a cloudy mirror. I catch the flicker of his face. And this is a poem in which I imagine my parents making love actually in Gascony, which where my mother was from. She was Gasconnaise, and she, I think my cousin who I met later in life, who gave me some maternal stories, told me that they had gone off together to the house in Gascony. So here I call the poem Crossroads. Rabbit fur sky, the clouds gaining as you lose the view of my mother's house by its river, the door ajar. A snapshot shows her in joppers and paisley neckerchief, her back to mountains violently risen up. Unlike the valleys and plateaus, I imagine she and my father rode on dun-colored horses, as if the hereafter of wings had been handed down. Assumed from her gaze, she read his look, arranged her hair for him on the pillow like a fan. Another snapshot has her hair cropped short across the forehead. In one picture, his head's gone bald like an old Roman general. The surprise when their child is packed off to the nuns. That what wasn't said fills this house, this river house. Before you turn back to the city, softly close the door. This is called Father's Song. It's a good general poem, but it does have California flowers. Some of you who know the West Coast will recognize Ocotillo, beautiful red desert flower, and the blue gentians. Father song. Past Ocotillo, Gentian, I traveled to your grave, but I haven't buried you. Outlander, I traveled past the meadow groove of your west country. I too was born out of fire that fell from the sky. Red-winged blackbird, poor red ants stinging the grasses, rotifers in a droplet of water. I, a daughter who bolted out of the blue, come to praise that you enticed my mother with your honors and degrees. She who held you in high degree on another continent before I came true. And this is a poem, a fairly recent one, in which I think about the state of California and how the state of California, millions of years from now, will join Alaska, part of that movement, and there's other autobiographical materials woven through the poem. As California edges towards Alaska, long after the Belgian sisters gave me leave to sail the sea, green on a pull-down map, Joyce popped open a bottle in San Diego to celebrate my poem, The Pope's Ballet. My father served the church, fell to his knees, covered his face with his hands in prayer, and never broke with Rome to give me his name. Some days I feel my father's soul streaming west, where my friend Joyce ran out of mornings. We may all meet as particles of time. California to break into Alaskan coastal mountains, interlock plates over landmass sprawled across the globe, and the green sea sailing above whatever we contended with and remembered. And I think this is the last conference for the time being anyway. This is based on a museum, a Metropolitan Museum show that showed Tang Dynasty script of poets. It's really a wonderful exhibit some years ago, and they described the handwriting of these poets. So I do that, and then I get my father's handwriting in there too. At my father's grave, I remember Tang Dynasty calligraphers dispatched with a worn brush the cursive writing of poet Jean Chou, possessed heroic spirit. His calligraphy balanced characters, pointed to diligent study. Scholar poet Mi Fu's idiosyncratic running characters wrote of living in peaceful times before the Mongols roared down from the north. His writing was described as a sailboat in a gust of wind, or a war horse charging into battle. The long, slender stroke of Truce Sudan, Tang Master, spoke of donation of the body to birds and beasts. Scholar priest, my father signed his papers in rounded letters, slanted to the right, suggesting an affable nature. After the war, his bishop extolled him in a letter. We delighted in his stories. The dust of my father's body is donated to the mountain, and wind brushes his name on his stone. Now I'm going to change now. These are the father poems. Now I'm going to just give you a little sampling of new poems, very new poems. But you can see that the fixation is in some of the new poems. The old fixation works in the new poems too. So this is a poem at the Met. I was very much taken with a painting by Vial, who was painting his mother, and he lived with his mother for a long time in Paris. But anyway, in the painting, the woman is sewing. At the Met, Vial's mother at her sewing, lampshade tilted towards a blue cloth, purse lining, patchwork quilt, needle and threads unison in a shadowy corner, not seen, papered fleur-de-lis, paisley shawl, what the bonne à toute faire tossed on a hook of her cramped room. The scene beholds its secrets, like my vanished singer sewing machine, simplicity patterns vogue, seeking the chic of Dior, a midi-length skirt whipped up to see the impressionists at the Met. Tapestries of life telling their stories. I recall disclosures from my newfound French mother, shaking in a frayed gray sweater. No one must know, write me as a distant friend. I find out her mother is the mayor's daughter, my grandmother, and in a reverie she offers me un whiskey américain and lifts her glass. Here's to our secrets, she smiles, savoring the thought of a grandchild at last. I'll leave the family story for a little while. This is a story of the math genius in my high school. And we were actually, what do we call it? They had a special phrase for it. We weren't having sex, but we were, help me with the word, we were friends. It was a special word. Some kind of friend.
Platonic.
That's what I'm looking for platonic. Thank you. You rescued me. My notes are not knowing. And this is called Elegy for a Math Genius. And it takes place in Long Island of the 50s, just before the leather houses were built, so onion fields and bare farm country. Elegy for a Math Genius. The onion field held us flat on our backs, hands interlocked, spring night of dim stars. Then the $7,000 houses sprang up out of nowhere. A memory of your love my ring-a-ding ding dong wang, wacky, kinky, and written 100 times in leaking ink on blue-lined paper you folded and mailed with the 3-cent stamp. You were a polymath, highest math IQ in the state. An enumerate working for the phone code. Your number, please. We loved the sky and doubted heaven. You sent me papers on the subject of trajectories, binomials, Fibonacci, sequences, and married a composer from upstate. Piano notes hung in the air when your cells went awry, and carted you away into the silence of minus sign. So soon, they just moved into a house stunned, your children waiting for your numbers to leap out of nowhere. Our shared Weltanschauung, your word, remember. These houses now town, onions tossed in a bin, sold for a penny each. I could do the math. You like them crunchy on buttered bread. And this is for this was not a boyfriend, but a dear friend, a 4-star friend, who died last summer. And some of you may know his poetry, Philip Dacey. Terrific poet. He was born in St. Louis in and spent much of his life in Minneapolis. He died of leukemia. And for Philip Dacey, in the poem I use a lot of horses because the name Philip is Greek for lover of horses, or friend of horses. For Philip Dacey, 1939, 2060. It's hard to say this now, isn't it? And anyway, and the horse on the mountain waits for its rider. And in Sligo, Yeats's headstone with its horsemen pass by, presides over the green flight of Lorca's Verde, Verde. And if the notion of calendar time disappears, my young father goads a horse on Sunday to preach pure love from his pulpit. Lady Godiva ambles bareback on her white horse in Coventry, and the horse of summer breaks away from its paddock, coming wild-eyed to take Philip away. Green wind and branches caressing him, transporting him to Lorca's Nuevo York, and to all who wrote poems, poemas. We wave to Philip, call up his words, their wings on a page like Pegasus soaring over Mount Olympus. Ay, Felipe, amigo, adios. And I have now, I think, this is dedicated just a few poems to David Del Tredici, composer, who lives in down here, Westbeth. He's in Westbeth. And he did a musical piece called Ms. Inez Says. I was very proud of that. There's a few good, to just do a few poems from that. Let me see which one. Yeah, I think I'll do this one poem that I like reading. It's called, Oh, Good News, Nilda is Back. And the poem was prompted by looking into a beauty shop somewhere in Washington Heights, and it said, good news, Nilda is back. And of course, I wanted to know where Nilda had been, and why was it good news she was back. The poem begins in those ways. But this is good news, Nilda is back, the sign, huzzahs in the beauty shop, as the rain combs the sky over and over like a grandmother combing the hair of a child. Impermanent waves of rain on the street, the trees are straight, but the city bends. Nilda is back from Guayaquil, Quito, Ponce, San Jose to tease the gringos, smiles of blue-eyed wives in the reigning city. And now she cha-chas up the aisles to supervise the upswept lines of an aging lady who does not know why Nilda comes, or why she goes, or where her hair uncurls at night, damp at the edge from waves of love. And then this one also. No, I'm going to go to Luba, and I have just a couple of poems for Luba, or from Luba. And Luba is my last book, and she is an invention. She is kind of an alter ego. She actually came from my brain one day, Luba, and I felt that I had to enclose her in her poems. It's very unlike me. I'm not called by spirits in that sense. But anyway, this is Luba, and I'm playing very heavily and seriously with sounds here. And you have to remember that there was a musician called Menuhin, Yehudi Menuhin. Anyone remember?
Yeah.
Oh, good, okay. Well, I'm playing with that name. And And the poem is called Luba Looks at a Menu and Thinks of Music. Menu. Men, you, your hoodie. Menuing. Minuet in. A minute. You hoodie. Hoodie men that made you the hoodoo. Yeah. How many hands in two handsome impresarios? Rio de Janeiro, Portuguese pianos, menus in Brazil, Yehu, Yehu, yeah, Hoodie, Hoodie, Who, Luba. Yeah, I had fun with that one. and this is what I think. I think this is the one I'm reading. Yeah, this is just it's a Florida poem, but I like it. It's very, what's the word? I don't know. It describes a certain kind of social set in Florida. A friend of mine used to send me the society pages from Palm Beach, and that's the name of the poem, but it has a truth to it. Society shots. A brimmed concoction in fluted chiffon above a lacquered face, doted on by a Lothario in shell pink suit. Luba Tata, Luba Tito, front row seat in Florida, rich in condos, Cuba Libras, margaritas, spas and lounges, credit cards fly like jeweled birds out of bags fashioned by Versace, Oscar de la Renta. Daiquiris tip into plump pink lips that chatter while the sun and moon rattle through gold clouds. Get your raffled sunset cruises, charity balls. The smart set age gracefully in Armani jackets. How beautiful in Florida to wear a frock of green netting in your hair and to match it to a see-through dress, the color of a wave about to break into foam. And I think my last poem, I think it's coming up. Do I have it here? Well, I don't think I can say it's going to be my last poem. I had one for Saul. My dear Saul, my husband of 53 years. A handsome man. And I had a poem for him. But alas, is it there, Saul? Do we have that? Oh, here it is. It's all written. I thought I had lost it. I found it. This is for Saul, my ally, and my friend. How we got here. We walk, a dapper couple holding hands in May on Broadway. Too late for the movie, we find a sidewalk table and chairs, Lincoln Center, and it's Paris, sort of, chic, convivial crowd, trees coming into their own Cézanne shade of green, the sun, our Edith Piaf, singing La Seine. Autumn back then, on the Rue de la Sorbonne, Marthe et Georges discussing Kant's critique of pure reason, wine swirling. How they stumbled into each other's desire. He said, love my start a year after yours in the Borscht. Labor Day, Sylvia and Max. Pop knocked back a little schnapps. Sylvia too. So who knew? I said, thank you. Dorothy, an announcement?
Well, there are two announcements. First of all, we'd like to, if you have any questions to ask
anybody want to ask?
Ask
Colette
either of
something,
us.
anything you'd like to ask? I guess, well, not anything.
You want to ask us something?
And then Colette has, I believe, Luba.
And I have some
Yeah,
copies of Luba.
Okay, great. Thank you for being such a great audience. Would you like to ask a question? Anything?
Does your book,
Yeah.
Luba is a Russian Jewish or Yiddish name or a Russian name? And wondering, is that right?
Well, you mean what sort of what the name Luba? Well, it was written from Russia.
Yeah.
Yes, and I don't know, I think I was attracted to the Lu, the
sound.
and the beat of ba. It was sort of a mystical connection. And people have pointed out to me that there are many, there's a Luba, river in Africa, other time. But I liked the name, and I sort of invented her, and I liked having the third person so I could let go of my I. It's very freeing not to have to be me, I. So I got this other person to speak, or to speak for herself.
Another question? Yes, in the back?
When did you come to this country, and have you written in French?
The country of my origin?
Yes.
Well, I was
And
conceived
when did you
in
come
Paris.
here?
Well, you asking me? Yeah, me, okay. Yeah, I was conceived in Paris, but I was born in, my mother went late to Belgium, so I was born in Belgium.
When did you come here?
And then I came to America, and I was taken in by an American family. And then I discovered later in life, when I was in my early 20s, I found out that I wasn't a citizen, and that I was working for the American Scientific Company, and they needed all their contracts and so. So I had to go to the immigration, and because I had not been registered with the Alien Registration Act of several years. So I went to find the lawyer who had arranged an adoption, and found him, and then through him found out that my mother was alive, and that my father was a priest, etc. So that's a long answer to your question.
How old were you when you came here, and did you think and write in French for a while?
Yes, I lived in France.
When did you come here? How old were you?
I was almost 8, so and I was born in 1930, so that gives you time when I came and my age.
Do you think in French at all?
Yes, I went back to when about 10 years ago, 20 years ago, my cousin invited me after my mother's death to come and visit him, and he opened the doors to the family history, and showed me all the cemeteries, and showed me pictures of the family. It was a wonderful experience for me. So I did live in France for a while. I lived in France when I was very young, in my 20s, and then I went back to France when I was a little older, and stayed with my cousin. So I am 7/8 French, and 1/8 Irish. What's the question about art?
Another question?
Do you have books available to sell or now today?
I have trouble hearing you right
She
there.
wants to know if you have books. Books available to sell.
Oh, books, the check with the man in the pink shirt. And Dorothy has books available too. Not too.
No, I have some poems.
Do you have also?
The poem that was given out,
There's copies of Dorothy's poem on the back table.
I put part with one of my little brevitage. It's not my own book, but it's a collection that I have poems in. I don't have anything besides that. You can get a few poems if you want. Any questions about creative process or what it's like to be alive and writing in the world today? What keeps you writing, Colette? Like, what's your impetus? What keeps you writing?
Keeps me writing. So I'm just dogged, stubborn. I can't help not writing. And I have to slap my hands. But I don't write as much. At one point, I was really sort of driven to write. I had to tell my story. That was very important to me. I wanted to be visible. I wanted to make myself known. Not through poetry, but my writing gave me my life in a sense. It ordered it because it was so confusing to have a life where your parents give you up and you countries you speak different languages. So poetry meant difference. So
are you conscious when you write of exactly what you're writing, or do you do experience consciousness?
Sometimes I'm trying to find out what I'm going to say by writing. And it's sort of wonderful writing, and then you say, oh, this is what I meant. This is what I wanted to say. And poetry does that for you. It helps you define who you are or what you want, or you begin to recognize that gift of writing.
Any other questions? Yes?
Dorothy, I'm interested in what your work ethic is regarding your writing.
I'm sorry?
Your work ethic. How do you approach your writing? Is it scheduled in a particular way? Get up in the morning first thing you write, or do you?
I get up during the night. I can't sleep. I start writing. I'm at the laptop typing away. I don't have like a particular time of day. I just like to keep writing. Everything puts me in mind there's something, and I'm always creating something, but I don't necessarily use it immediately. I'll put it away. It'll be like notes, kind of, and then I'll go back and I'll look at the notes, and sometimes I'll say, well, that's not bad. Maybe I should stay with that one. So, like I just keep uncovering things. I like to tap into the unconscious as much as possible. That's why I was taught that by John Ashbury. I don't think I was really as conscious of doing that. He actually had us not only do that kind of thing, or recording your dreams, but pretending to translate a language that you're not familiar with was one of his favorite assignments. So that's a real freeing kind of thing.
When you say you write about your unconscious, do you ever write about your dreams?
I don't write about it. I'm just unconscious when I'm not kidding. No, I just let it flow basically, and then I go back and see. Sometimes the poem just comes out. I had a dream once about a duck and a snake, and it came out as a full-blown poem. There were a couple, but they were estranged, and they live in different parts of the world. So. But they usually don't come out that way, but sometimes, it just comes out and it's finished. Any other